Remember to give the video a thumbs up, share your insights in the comments, and subscribe to keep up with our newest tales. Once upon a time, on a seemingly typical Wednesday afternoon, everything began to unfold. It was one of those days when the ordinary unfolded, yet an unspoken magic lingered in the atmosphere, hinting at untold tales waiting to be discovered. My name is Evelyn, and at 62 years old, I've spent my days in a serene little town just on the outskirts of Denver. For more than 35 years, my husband Robert and I have shared a journey together in marriage. We've journeyed through the adventure of raising 2 children, experienced our share of peaks and valleys, and found our groove in the dance of life. Well, that was my initial impression. Robert has consistently demonstrated loyalty and dedication throughout his career, spending the last 10 years at a local marketing firm. His boss, Daniel Hawthorne, is a man in his early 50s, exuding charisma and an undeniable presence that captivates those around him. In the brief encounters I had with Daniel at various company events, he always struck me as smooth and polished, embodying the essence of professionalism. Yet on this unique afternoon, events unfolded in a way I could never have anticipated. That day, I found myself immersed in the vibrant atmosphere of a local charity event, where I was lending a hand. As the clock struck 3:30, Robert arrived to pick me up just as he always did. As we journeyed home, he appeared lost in thought, a distant look in his eyes that hinted at a story untold. He wore a faraway gaze, the sort that hints at burdens he carries yet remains unspoken, lingering in the silence between us. Upon our return home, a sense of anticipation filled me as I looked forward to unwinding after the whirlwind of the day. As I nestled into my beloved armchair, cradling a warm cup of tea, the sudden ring of the phone broke the serene moment. It was Robert's work phone, a device I seldom picked up, yet on that day an inner voice urged me to reach for it. "Hello," I said, my voice calm yet filled with intrigue. "Mrs. Evelyn." It was Daniel's voice, smooth and controlled. Yet beneath it lay a whisper of something more profound. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Daniel Hawthorne. I hope you don't mind, but I have something I'd like to discuss with you in private. Is now a suitable moment?" It caught me off guard. It was a surprise when Daniel reached out to me, as he had always been accompanied by Robert in the past. I glanced at my husband, who was moving restlessly by the window, with his back facing me. The phone had gone unnoticed, leaving him in the dark about the caller's identity. "Absolutely," I responded, a strange tension rising within me. "What tales are unfolding?" "I'd prefer to keep this conversation off the phone," Daniel said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I feel it's important to share this face-to-face. I'll swing by your place in about 30 minutes if that works for you." Thoughts swirled in a whirlwind. What could be the reason behind Daniel wanting to have a private conversation with me? I cast another look at Robert. He appeared to be wandering through his own mind, oblivious to the dialogue unfolding around him. "Of course," I replied, attempting to maintain a sense of composure. "Our presence will endure." Once the call ended, an unsettling sensation lingered in the air, refusing to fade away. What story did Daniel have to share with me? My heart raced as I attempted to reassure myself that there was nothing to fear. Maybe it was a work-related matter, a small concern that didn't involve me in any way, yet the idea remained weaving through my thoughts. What was it that prompted Daniel to reach out to me? After about 25 minutes, a gentle knock echoed through the door. Robert remained immersed in his own thoughts, so I took the initiative to respond. Before me stood Daniel, impeccably groomed, as always. Yet today, there was an air about him that hinted at a deeper, more fragile side. "Mrs. Evelyn," he welcomed me with a smile that was both warm and slightly strained, his eyes revealing a flicker of uncertainty. "I appreciate you sharing your time with me." I stepped aside, giving him a nod as I welcomed him in. "Welcome, step inside. How about a cup of coffee?" "No, thank you," Daniel replied swiftly, his tone soft, yet purposeful. "Thank you for your understanding, but I have something important to share, and I'd like to dive right in." I guided him into the living room, and we settled onto opposite ends of the sofa, each immersed in our own thoughts. The atmosphere surrounding us was charged with expectation. Daniel's familiar charisma was nowhere to be found, giving way to a striking intensity that was entirely new to me. His eyes met mine, filled with unspoken words, and for a brief moment silence enveloped us. "Evelyn," Daniel began, his voice a soft whisper, carefully measured. I have something personal to share with you, but you must promise not to let Robert in on it, not at this moment. My heart raced with excitement. What could possibly hold such weight that it demanded to be kept under wraps? I sat quietly, my hands gently placed on my lap, anticipating his next words. The atmosphere thickened, every heartbeat stretching into a timeless moment. "It's about Robert," Daniel remarked, his eyes locked onto mine. "There's a secret I've been holding back, from him and from you as well." As I inhaled deeply, I sought to keep my composure, yet the heaviness of his words bore down on me, enveloping me in their gravity. "Is that you, Robert?" What secrets might Daniel hold about Robert that remain unknown to me? I've formed a connection with someone at work. Daniel confessed, his voice a mere breath. Not long ago, a shift occurred in our relationship, and I found myself unsure of how to navigate it. I still do not. My breath caught in my throat. The words lingered in the air like a dense fog, the silence that ensued, heavy with disbelief. My heart raced and thoughts swirled in my mind as I tried to grasp the weight of Daniel's words. An inappropriate relationship. I echoed, my voice trembling. With whom? Daniel paused, weighing his words with thoughtful consideration. I can't reveal everything just yet, but what I can share is that it's someone near to Robert, a person you would never anticipate. The atmosphere shifted, a chill creeping in, and my eyes instinctively darted to my husband, who continued his restless pacing in the adjacent room. For how long had Daniel held on to this secret, and what had compelled him to share it with me? What was he seeking from me? I found myself at a loss for words. In that moment, I found myself enveloped in a tempest of feelings, unable to find the words to express what I was experiencing. What new insights had just come to my attention? What made Daniel choose me to share his thoughts with? I glanced back at him, attempting to decipher his expression, to grasp what he aimed to accomplish by unveiling this reality. His eyes held a weight of remorse, yet beneath that lay an undeniable urgency. "I never intended to cause Robert any pain," Daniel said, his voice heavy with remorse. "However, I require your assistance, Evelyn. I'm feeling a bit lost right now. It feels like a tangled web, and I've certainly created quite the chaos." His words crashed over me like a tempest. Amidst the chaos of emotions, I found myself grappling with a whirlwind of feelings, yet deep down, I could sense the echoes of his suffering. It was more than mere treachery. It was about the intricate connections that weave through our lives, often unnoticed, until we take a closer look. "What brings you to share this with me?" I inquired, my voice scarcely rising above a murmur. "What brings us to this moment?" Daniel leaned forward, his eyes filled with a deep yearning for connection and comprehension. I find myself in a dilemma, wanting to protect Robert's feelings, yet feeling lost on how to mend this situation. "And you're the one I believe can guide me through this journey." The impact of his words washed over me, the seriousness of the moment settling deep within. This was more than merely a betrayal. Once there existed a bond between two men, a connection so deep that it seemed unbreakable, yet lurking in the shadows was a betrayal poised to unravel the very fabric of their relationship. But what was my place in all of this? What was I meant to do with this information? I sat there in silence, the heaviness of Daniel's revelation enveloping me like a thick fog, each word echoing in my mind. My thoughts were swirling, weaving together the threads of understanding. I gazed at him, and in that moment he transformed in my eyes from Robert's superior to a man burdened by a misstep that held the power to unravel countless lives, his own included. Words escaped me. I murmured, my voice quivering with uncertainty. "This is a narrative waiting to unfold." This caught me completely off guard. "What brings you to my door? Have you considered having a conversation with Robert himself?" For a brief instant, Daniel's expression wavered, his eyes shadowed by uncertainty. He reclined, his fingers gliding through his short graying hair, a movement that mirrored the conflict brewing within him. "I can't share that with him, Evelyn," he murmured gently. "I'm unsure of the way to do that. I feel like I've already made a mess of things, and the last thing I want is to cause him more pain. However, this is weighing heavily on me. I believed that if I could share my thoughts with you, perhaps you could guide me toward a path to set things straight." My heart ached for both of them, a deep, resonant feeling that tugged at my very core. Robert, my husband, who could never fathom this reality, and Daniel, who was visibly wrestling with feelings of guilt and shame. Daniel had always struck me as the ultimate example of professionalism, the sort of person who seemed to have everything perfectly managed. In that moment, he became just another character, caught in the web of human feelings, seeking an escape from a scenario that had unraveled beyond his grasp. "I'm not sure I can assist you," I replied, my voice heavy with feeling. "There's a lot unfolding here. I'm not quite sure what you envision from me, but I am simply the partner of Robert. This isn't something I can resolve for you." Daniel's expression shifted momentarily, steeling, before melting into something more gentle, as if he were measuring my response. It appeared he understood that his request was overwhelming, arriving too early in their journey. "Indeed," he whispered softly. "I regret placing this burden on you. Yet you understand Robert in a way that no one else can. I felt the urge to share with someone. At this moment, I find it challenging to navigate my own existence." The fragility in his voice, the intensity of his suffering was nearly overwhelming. In that moment, he revealed a part of himself that had remained hidden, a glimpse into a world I had yet to explore. He had transformed from the confident, successful boss into something more complex. He was a man, navigating the heavy burden of his own decisions. As I inhaled deeply, I sought to find my balance. "Eventually, Daniel, you have to share it with him. This secret won't stay hidden for long." Daniel nodded, his eyes cast downward, burdened by the gravity of his choices. "I understand, but I'm uncertain about confronting him after all that's happened. For months now, I've woven a web of deception around him. Evelyn, I'm not sure if there's a way to mend this situation." The words lingered dense and palpable, weaving a tapestry of unspoken tales. The stillness that enveloped us was thick, as though the very air in the room was caught in the unspoken conflict hanging between us. Words escaped me in that moment. What words could I find for a man who had stumbled so profoundly, to a man who had just revealed a truth so profound, fully aware it could shatter his entire existence? Perhaps it would be wise to pause for a moment. I proposed, gently sensing the gravity of my statement. "It's important for you to take a moment to reflect on your true desires, Daniel. I have a story about Robert. He has a kind heart. If your feelings for him run deep, it's essential to find a way to express them, even if it feels like the toughest challenge you've ever faced." Daniel's gaze locked onto mine, a glimmer of what felt like hope piercing through the shadows of despair. "Do you believe he will find it in his heart to forgive me?" One day I found myself pondering whether I possessed a response to that inquiry. Forgiveness weaves a tapestry of emotions and experiences. It's a journey that unfolds over time. It's a journey that demands patience, insight, and the courage to mend what has been lost. "I can't say," responded gently, "but I have a connection with Robert. He embodies integrity, Daniel. He cherishes unwavering allegiance more than anything else. Should you convey your genuine regret and allow him the necessary time and space, there might just be a glimmer of hope." Daniel reclined, his fingers clutching the sofa's edge as he absorbed what I had just shared. His brow furrowed, and for a moment I could sense the internal battle he was fighting, caught between guilt and fear. He stood at the crossroads, uncertainty swirling around him. Yet his ears were open, ready to absorb whatever tales the future might weave. For the first time since he had walked through the door, a spark of possibility flickered in his eyes. "I can't imagine my life without you, Evelyn," he murmured softly. "In this moment, your support has felt like a true gift, one that I deeply appreciate." I gently shook my head, a silent response to the unfolding narrative. "We are not friends, Daniel. I am the partner of Robert. As I lend a hand to him, I'm also extending my support to you in this journey." We lingered in quietude, each absorbed in our individual reflections. The room was thick with the burden of the secret Daniel had revealed. Yet there was an additional presence lingering in the atmosphere, a silent moment, a feeling that hinted at the dawn of a fresh perspective. At last, Daniel rose to his feet, smoothing out his suit jacket as he let out a heavy sigh. "I think it's time for me to take my leave. It seems Robert might be curious about my whereabouts. I want to keep things under wraps." I nodded, sensing the tightness within me gradually start to fade away. "I'll be here, Daniel, but you have to find a way to mend what's broken. This is something you can't escape any longer." He offered me a faint smile, tinged with a hint of regret. Indeed, you have a point. I'll find a way, Evelyn. I'm uncertain about the next chapter, but I'm ready to embrace it. As he approached the door, a wave of discomfort washed over me, stirring a tale of uncertainty within. This was far from the end, yet a flicker of hope ignited within me, whispering that perhaps, just perhaps, there was a chance for mending. What had been broken, Daniel found himself in a tough spot, a significant blunder. Yet we all experience those moments of vulnerability. The inquiry lingered. Could he summon the courage to mend what lay in ruins? As the door clicked shut, I stood in the stillness of the living room, enveloped by my own reflections. What unfolds next? Can I guide my husband through this challenging time? Could there be a chance for Robert to find it in his heart to forgive Daniel? And more significantly, can we all progress from this point onward? Though I lacked the answers, a significant realization dawned on me for the first time in ages. At times, the most challenging aspect isn't merely confronting reality, but rather enduring the aftermath that follows. And the journey ahead, no matter its shape, would require time and patience, while the moments that followed Daniel's revelation were a haze infused with an unsettling tension that lingered in the air. As I navigated the familiar rhythms of my day, preparing meals, tidying up, assisting Robert with his tasks, a persistent unease lingered in my thoughts, an unshakable sense that a transformation was on the horizon. Daniel's burden lingered in my thoughts, weaving through my mind like a haunting tale. Yet my thoughts kept drifting back to Robert, my husband, the one who placed his trust in me above all others, the one blissfully unaware of the events that had unfolded between his boss and me. Whenever my gaze fell upon him, a profound sorrow stirred within me. The pressure of keeping Daniel's truth from him was more than just guilt. It was the dread of the moment when the reality would finally be revealed. Could it unravel the fabric of our existence? Is it possible to mend what has been shattered? Though uncertainty clouded my mind, one truth stood clear. I was determined to stand by Robert's side, come what may. As the clock ticked away, the minutes past dinner, an undeniable tension hung in the air, waiting for someone to break the silence. Robert had been withdrawn recently, and I sensed the heaviness of it bearing down on us both. As we settled in for a movie night, it was clear that his thoughts were wandering far from the screen before us. Whenever I attempted to draw him into a conversation, his responses were always half-hearted, his gaze drifting to the screen as if he were lost in another world. Robert the First asked softly, "Is everything all right?" He lingered, his hand suspended in the air as he extended it toward the remote. His face told a tale of strain with a furrowed brow and tension etched into his shoulders. For a fleeting instant, I wondered if he would dismiss me, but to my surprise, he placed the remote aside and turned to meet my gaze. He spoke softly, his mind wandering to thoughts of Daniel. His behavior has been quite unusual lately. Wouldn't you agree? A tightness gripped my throat. My heart raced as I sought the perfect phrases, yet they eluded me in that moment. This was the moment, the instant I had been anticipating with unease. I needed to share something with him, but what could it be? Should I share the reality with him, or should I continue to act as if everything was just fine, as if there were no hidden truths lingering between us? Absolutely, I observed, responding thoughtfully, while aiming for a laid-back vibe. He's been acting a bit differently these days. I have a feeling it's just a minor thing. Robert offered me a subtle, understanding smile, yet there was a depth in his gaze that tugged at my heartstrings. I'm not quite sure, Evelyn. For years, I've had the opportunity to collaborate with him, and I've never encountered him in this way before. I'm beginning to feel like there might be more to this, as if I'm missing some crucial details. His words struck me with the force of a sudden blow. He was beginning to sense something amiss, and the idea of him uncovering the truth like this filled me with dread. I needed to weave a narrative that would comfort him, steering him away from probing too far. Robert, you're getting lost in your thoughts, I said, attempting to sound assured. Daniel has found himself navigating through a storm of challenges lately with work and all that comes with it. Perhaps he requires a little time to find his footing. You're familiar with his ways, yet Robert remained unconvinced. He fixed his eyes on me, a penetrating look that seemed to delve into the very essence of my being. I'm not sure, Evelyn. There's an unsettling feeling in the air. I can sense it deeply. It feels like Daniel is keeping a secret from me. He's always been the type of person who keeps his cards close to his chest, but I've known him long enough to sense when something's amiss. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. This was the pivotal moment, the time when I faced a decision that would shape my path. Should I share all my thoughts with him? Should I safeguard Daniel's secret? Should I allow Robert to uncover the truth by himself? Before I could utter a word, Robert leaped to his feet, raking his fingers through his hair in exasperation. I'm about to reach out to him. I have a story to share with him. Robert, hold on, I called out, standing up. I clutched his arm, my fingers quivering as I restrained him. Refrain from taking that action. This isn't the way. He gazed at me, his eyes brimming with a mix of bewilderment and irritation. What's stopping us? If there's a tale unfolding, I must be in the loop. I must make it right. I felt the tremor in my voice as I whispered, but perhaps, just perhaps, there's a more captivating approach to navigate this situation. Kindly allow it a moment to unfold. He gazed at me for what felt like an eternity, as if he were measuring my words against the pull of his own intuition. At last he exhaled deeply, allowing his shoulders to droop in defeat. I find myself puzzled, Evelyn. What makes you so concerned for his well-being? I could feel the tears starting to form, but I held them back, understanding the journey he's on. I'm aware of the secrets he's keeping. Robert's eyes glimmered with empathy as he moved closer, his expression heavy with worry. Evelyn, care to share what's happening? What tales do you have to share? As I shut my eyes, a thrill surged through me. I wanted to share all my thoughts with him. I felt the urge to share my truth to lighten my heart, yet the right words eluded me. The reality unfolded in layers far more intricate than I had ever envisioned, leaving me uncertain about whether Robert could bear the weight of it all. I can't say, I whispered to Robert, my voice barely rising above a whisper. Not at this moment. I asked for your trust just a bit longer. He nodded slowly, yet the uncertainty remained evident in his gaze. This doesn't sit well with me, Evelyn. The uncertainty is unsettling for me. I understand, I replied gently. Yet there are moments when we must navigate our own thoughts and feelings before opening up to others. Robert lingered for a heartbeat, his gaze locked onto mine before he exhaled a heavy sigh and enveloped me in his embrace. The warmth of his embrace enveloped me, and in that fleeting moment, a sense of safety washed over everything once more. Yet deep down, I sensed that this tranquility was merely a fleeting moment. The revelation was approaching, regardless of my preparedness. The days following our talk drifted by in a fog of discomfort. Even in the stillness of our shared evenings, I could feel the tension lingering between Robert and me. He was making an effort, I could sense it, yet there was a force within me that continually tugged at my thoughts, whispering the reality of what I knew. Each glance in his direction brought a heavy burden to my heart. The atmosphere surrounding us was heavy with things left unsaid, and I realized we couldn't continue down this path indefinitely. A week later, the tension reached its peak. On a rainy Thursday evening, Robert found himself back home after a long day at work. He was weary as always. Yet there was an intriguing twist to his actions this evening. He appeared lost in thought, his attention drifting towards something elusive that I couldn't identify. As he stepped into the living room, he seemed lost in his own world, barely registering my presence. I rose from the couch, my heart racing with anticipation. "Robert, is everything okay?" I inquired, making an effort to maintain a calm tone. He turned to face me, and I could sense the turmoil swirling within his gaze. Today, I had a conversation with Daniel. He spoke in a hushed tone. He finally opened up, the atmosphere grew heavy, and I stood still, my heart sinking deep within me. The difficult moment, I feared, had finally unfolded before my eyes. Robert had uncovered the reality behind the facade. I attempted to conceal my anxiety, yet I was certain he could see straight into my soul. He moved in a little closer, his gaze probing into my own. He shared with me the tale of the promotion he was extending my way. He shared with me that you were the one who mentioned my thoughts on it, and well, he went on to say much more about all that transpired between you two. The ground seemed to vanish beneath my feet as the realization washed over me. It was more than the promotion. It was more than Daniel's unexpected, urgent plea. It was everything, the dialogue, the palpable tension, the swirling emotions that had been growing between us. The burden I had held close was now meant to be shared. With a trembling voice, I murmured my apologies, the weight of emotion heavy in the air. I ought to have shared that with you. My intention was never to cause you pain, Robert. It was never my intention for things to unfold this way. He remained quiet for what felt like an eternity. His gaze locked onto mine. In his gaze, I noticed a pain, yet intertwined with it was a gentler essence, a hint of understanding that lingered beneath the surface. He moved closer and took my hand, his grip soft yet resolute. "I'm at a loss for words, Evelyn," he murmured, softly. "I'm feeling a mix of anger and hurt, yet there's a part of me that grasps the situation in a different light. I'm familiar with Daniel's ways. He has a way with words, drawing you in. But I never imagined it would reach this point. I never imagined you would be part of it." I hesitated, my voice quivering as I expressed my reluctance to engage. Yet he was navigating a personal journey. I found myself at a loss for words when it came to turning things down. And when he confided in me, I felt this deep sense of responsibility, as if I felt obligated to support him. "But I never intended to let you down. Robert, never." Robert grasped my hand tightly, his expression a blend of uncertainty and sorrow. "I'm not sure if I can completely let go of this, Evelyn, but I'm open to the journey of trying. Our journey has been filled with challenges, and I understand how tough this has been for you. Moving forward, let's commit to being truthful with one another." I nodded, my cheeks glistening with tears. "I understand, Robert. I understand." He wrapped his arms around me, and I held on to him as if he were my anchor in that fleeting moment. My thoughts were a tempest swirling with feelings of guilt, shame, and a sense of relief. After a long journey filled with twists and turns, we finally found ourselves at this moment, yet uncertainty loomed over what lay ahead. Yet one thing remained clear: the revelation had irrevocably transformed the dynamics of our bond. Just a few days passed when Daniel decided to reach out. It had been a while since that night, and a part of me couldn't shake the thought of whether our paths would cross once more. As I lifted the receiver, his voice came through, gentle and filled with regret. "Apologies, Evelyn," he expressed. "It was never my intention for events to unfold in this manner. It was a mistake to place you in that situation. I find myself at a loss for what I was contemplating." I found myself at a loss for words in front of him. He was the man who had ventured into uncharted territory, thrusting me into a narrative I never wished to inhabit. Yet in that instant, a revelation dawned upon me. He found himself wandering in the same haze I once did. Our decisions had woven a narrative that brought us here, yet the past remained unchangeable. With a soft voice, I turned to Daniel and confessed, "I can't fix this. And I can no longer be involved in whatever journey you're embarking on. Yet I wish for you to navigate your path homeward." After a lengthy silence on the other end of the line, he finally broke the stillness with his words. "I hear you. Evelyn, I truly do. The memories of your kindness will always stay with me, yet I understand that it's time for me to embrace the future. I simply felt it was important for you to be aware of that." And with that, the tale came to a close. I ended the call, a peculiar blend of sorrow and liberation enveloping me. Daniel had charted his path, and I had chosen my own. Now all that remained was to weave together the threads of my life anew, to mend the connection I shared with Robert, and to step into the future. The days that followed were anything but simple. Robert and I found ourselves on a journey navigating through the tasks ahead, while gradually uncovering the art of sharing our thoughts freely, embracing a space where judgment and reprisal held no power over us. And while the path before us was unclear, I felt a deep sense of strength in our unity as we confronted the reality side by side. As for Daniel, he has been a figure in my memories since that day. The unknown path ahead for him was a mystery, and that was perfectly fine with me. He embarked on his unique journey while I ventured down my own distinct road. Amidst the journey, I discovered a profound lesson. Once upon a time, there was a tale that highlighted the significance of being truthful, the resilience found in letting go, and the courage to embrace new beginnings, even in the face of overwhelming challenges. Life had its imperfections, yet it was uniquely ours to experience, and for that, I felt a deep sense of gratitude.